there are thousands of alien empires in the Milky Way. What's up, guys? There are billions of Earth-like planets out there in the Milky Way. We know this because scientists have done the math and told us this is a fact. If there are billions of planets out there that can sustain life, then surely we can't be alone. But we are, and it makes you wonder, where is everybody? If you think about it, the universe would be a lot less complicated if there were no aliens. When people talk about aliens, they usually mean one thing: little green men from Mars who want to abduct us for breeding experiments. Or maybe it's little grey men from Zeta Reticuli who have a UFO. It's fun to speculate about these things, but the chances of these particular scenarios being true are very low. And most scientists agree that if there are aliens out there, they're probably not what we expect them to be. But if intelligent extraterrestrial life does exist, how many of them are out there? Is it possible that there are thousands of alien empires spread across the galaxy? And why haven't any of them come here yet? I'm going to answer these questions and others just like them on today's episode of C-Show Space. Imagine a vast, sprawling galaxy full of countless star systems, each with its own set of rocky planets and moons. Now imagine that some of those planets have life, perhaps even intelligent life. It's not hard to imagine that there could be millions or even billions of alien species scattered across the galaxy. But does that mean that there are thousands of alien empires? To answer that question, we need to take a step back and consider what an empire really is. In the most general sense, an empire is a group of stars or planets ruled over by a single power. That power could be anything from a monarchy to a dictatorship to a technocracy ruled by machines. But whatever form it takes, it needs to be able to exert control over other worlds. This means having a strong military and a way to project that military power across interstellar distances. It also means having a stable government and economy that can support a large population and sustain itself over long periods of time. Based on this definition, it's not hard to imagine how a civilization could build an empire that spans thousands of worlds. But it's also not hard to see how such an empire would be incredibly fragile. There are so many things that could go wrong, from natural disasters to economic collapse to war. And any one of these could bring down an entire empire. That's why it's probably a good thing that we haven't encountered any alien empires yet. If we had, chances are they wouldn't be around for very long. In other words, if there are alien empires out there, they're probably very short-lived, so the number of alien empires that could exist in the galaxy at any given time is probably very small. This raises another question though. Why haven't we encountered any alien empires? Even if there are only a handful of them in the galaxy, surely we would have seen some kind of evidence by now, right? Well, maybe not. You see, just because something is possible doesn't mean that it's easy. For example, let's say that a civilization managed to develop the technology needed to leave their home planet and colonize other worlds. That doesn't mean that they would actually do it. It's much easier to stay on a planet like Earth, where there's already liquid water and a breathable atmosphere, than to try and make a new home on a lifeless rock. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, I know that was a dumb example. Let's try that again. Let's say that a civilization managed to develop the technology needed to leave their home planet and colonize other worlds. That doesn't mean that they would actually do it. It's much easier to stay on a planet like Earth, where there's already liquid water and a breathable atmosphere, than to try and make a new home on a lifeless rock or a gas giant or a radioactive wasteland like Mars, Venus, Mercury, or the Trunco system. In fact, it's hard to imagine why any civilization would want to leave their home planet unless they absolutely had to. Maybe their home planet was dying and they had no choice but to flee. Or maybe they were conquerors looking to expand their territory and resources. But in most cases, it's hard to imagine why a civilization would willingly abandon a planet like Earth. Maybe you're thinking, well, of course they'd leave. They'd have rockets and spaceships and all kinds of cool stuff. But actually, if you think about it, the logistics of leaving a planet are a lot more complicated than you might think. First of all, even if a civilization had the technology to build spaceships, they would still need to build a lot of them. A single spaceship isn't going to cut it. They would need a whole fleet of them just to get started. Secondly, they would need to find somewhere else to go. Not every planet is hospitable to life, and even if they found a planet that could sustain life, they would need to terraform it first. Finally, they would need to coordinate all of this activity across multiple planets. It's a huge undertaking that would require a lot of planning and resources. And let's not forget that once they left their home planet, they would never be able to return. There's no guarantee that their home planet would still be there when they got back. It's possible that it could have been destroyed by a natural disaster or by another civilization. That's why it's hard to imagine why any civilization would want to leave their home planet unless they absolutely had to. But let's say that they did. Let's say that they developed the technology and resources necessary to colonize other worlds. Where would they go? Well, that depends on where they started. If they began in a star system like Alpha Centauri, then they would probably head towards Proxima Centauri b, since it's the closest planet to them that could theoretically sustain life. But if they started in the Orion arm, then they might head towards the Sagittarius arm, since that's where most of the Milky Way's habitable planets are located. It's not hard to imagine how a civilization could spread across the galaxy if it's broken up into different arms. Over time, each arm could develop its own unique culture and technology, just like the United States and Europe did after they split off from the Roman Empire. This would create thousands of distinct alien civilizations scattered across the galaxy. But here's the thing, we haven't found any evidence of these civilizations, and it's not because we haven't been looking. We've been searching for signs of life elsewhere in the galaxy for decades now, and we haven't found anything. Why is that? Well, it could be that these civilizations are hiding from us. Maybe they're trying to avoid detection, or maybe they don't want us to know that they're out there. But it could also be that these civilizations aren't what we expect them to be. Maybe they're not intelligent enough to build spaceships, or maybe they're not alive in the traditional sense. Maybe they're computer programs or artificial intelligence. These possibilities are all fascinating, but they also highlight the difficulty of finding alien life. If we don't know what to look for, we might miss it entirely. So is it possible that there are thousands of alien empires in the galaxy? Sure, but the fact that we haven't found any evidence of them yet suggests that they're either very rare or very elusive. The same is true for planets like Mars. The red planet is a great candidate for hosting life because it's relatively close to Earth and it's got plenty of water ice on its surface. But the chances of it ever becoming habitable again are slim to none. You see, Mars is in the process of freezing over, and it won't be hospitable to life again for millions of years. So if there are alien empires out there, they're probably not on Mars. But what about Venus? The planet is hot, and its atmosphere is thick and toxic, but it could be possible to build a shelter there. Or maybe it's possible to terraform Venus and make it more like Earth. If this is possible, then it's likely that some alien civilization has already done it. But the problem with Venus is that it rotates in the opposite direction to Earth. This means that any alien settlers would have to deal with divine ocean, days and nights that are longer than Earth's year. That might not sound like a big deal, but it would definitely throw off any alien colonists' circadian rhythms. So it's possible that there are thousands of alien empires scattered across the galaxy, but it's also possible that none of them exist. The truth is, we simply don't know. But what we do know is that if there are alien civilizations out there, they're probably not what we expect them to be. Think of the Milky Way like an ocean. Each star system is like an island, and each planet is like a tiny rock in that star system. Some of these rocks will have life on them, and some of those will have intelligent life. Some of those will be able to advance technologically, and some of those will have the ability to leave their rocks and explore the ocean. But just because some civilizations are able to leave their rocks, doesn't mean they'll be able to colonize other islands. It's much easier to stay put than to set sail across the galaxy and try to make a new home on an uninhabited island. And if the islands are hostile and dangerous, like Mars, Venus, or the Trunco system, then it's even more difficult. If the ocean is filled with radioactive wastelands, poisonous swamps and barren deserts, then it makes sense to stay on your tiny rock and wait for the ocean to calm down. So it's possible that there are thousands of alien empires scattered across the galaxy. But until we find a way to detect them, we might never know for sure. If you liked this video, be sure to check out our other video on how to survive an alien invasion. Also, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an upload. Thanks for watching.